and welcome back to RareRoo Crafts. I'm Sarah and I'm on today to share with you what I have been making for embellishments on the 11th. So this is a collaboration hosted by the lovely Deb Houck of Deb Houck's Crafty Cottage, where she pulls together some really talented crafters once a month on the 11th to create embellishments. All of the channel names and links to the channels will be in the description box below this video, so please do go on over and check everybody out. I know that there will be a ton of inspiration and creative ideas for us all to see again this month. I know I'm looking forward to it. So this month I decided I was going to create some embellishments to use in a scrapbook. I want to do a scrapbook page of my Bampy, and he was a printer, so I thought it would be nice to make some little embellishments that I can use on a scrapbook page for him. So the first thing that I made was these typewriter keys. So I've got the whole alphabet. And I've made them look like this sort of distressed metal key, like that. So I've made these using silver mirror cardstock, just plain cheap stuff. I get mine from BM Bargains, although I haven't been able to get any lately, so I'm hoping they've not stopped selling it. I used this embossing folder, which is a Tim Holtz Texture Fades. This one is typewriter. So I sprayed the back of the silver cardstock with a little bit of water, ran it through on my big shot 2 or 3 times so that I got a nice deep impression. Once I'd run it through, I did cut it down just to make it a bit easier to manage. So you can see that it sort of embosses it in 3 strips. So I cut it down into those 3 strips. Then I painted over the top of the silver cardstock with this pewter. It is a water reactive ink from Spectrum Noir. Now it won't dry at all on top of the silver mirror cardstock, but if you let it dry as much as it's going to, it doesn't wipe off super easy. You've got to give it a bit of a rub. So I just got a bit of kitchen roll and just rubbed over the letters on each of the keys. And then I pressed some Versamark ink, clear embossing ink, over the top and just gave each strip a coat of the clear embossing powder. Once that was done, I glued it to some black cardstock and then I just cut them out. I cut them out by hand because I thought that gave them again that nice sort of hand finished look. And then I just went round the edge of each letter with a permanent marker, just so that you didn't get the white edge of the silver cardstock showing on the edge there. So that was the first one I made. I just love them. I think they do look just like old metal. I can't, you look at them and I find it really hard to believe that that's just cardstock. It's just a bit of card. It's mad. I think they're brilliant. I was really pleased with how they came out. While I'd got the embossing powders out, I decided to emboss some frames. So these are just frames that I picked up from the pound shop a couple of Christmases ago, and they've been in my stash ever since. But I thought I'd give them that sort of grungy, metally sort of finish, which again would be quite nice on a scrapbook page. So I've just used a variety of embossing powders. So on some of them, so that one I did just mostly silvers. This one and this one I did a mix of different metallic coloured embossing powders. And what I also did was I took a red rubber stamp that was just a textured sort of pattern to it. I dipped it into the Versamark ink and then I pushed it down in just before the embossing powder set, and that gave the metal a sort of the embossing powder, sorry, a sort of pitted metal look to it. And on this one I did use a little bit of StazOn black ink as well. So I went over it with the Versamark and then I dipped the stamp again into the StazOn. The Versamark just stops it from sticking too much to the wet embossing powder, because it'll just pull it all up off your frame otherwise. These ones were just some specialty embossing powders that I had. This one is called Tarnished Gold. And then this one is like a It's almost like a sort of granite, and it's got gold flecks in the granite. And then this one is sort of granity effect too, but it's got blue in it. And again, I use the texture stamp over the top of that one to add a bit more texture into that one. So I thought they were really cool. I thought I would make some cogs for the project, so I just die cut some cogs. These ones are X-cut cogs. I just die cut them out of craft cardstock. I painted them with black gesso. Now, if you use homemade gesso, you can just paint them with your homemade gesso and go over them with a heat tool. Because you make homemade gesso with PVA, it'll bubble. Store-bought gesso doesn't tend to bubble as easily. So what I did was I gave it all a coat of the black gesso to give it a basing, dried that off. I gave it a really thick coat of tacky glue, and I gave that a bit of a dry with the heat tool, not so that it was completely dry, but just that there was like a skin on the top, so that I could paint another layer of the gesso over the top. And then I went over it really hard, really aggressively with the heat tool. And what that did is it made the PVA glue bubble up, and then when it cools down, it sets back off, and it all goes sort of, the bubbles go down, but it doesn't go completely flat again, and you get all this brilliant texture in the cog. So once that had completely dried, I then gave it a light coat of some silver paint, making sure that some of the black was still poking through here and there. And then because I wanted them to look a little bit rusty, I went over the top of that. I just stippled on top of that some 3 different colours. I used like a really dark burnt orange, and then a bright orange over the top of that, and just a tiny little bit of yellow over the top of that to give that sort of a rust effect on the top. And the camera's not picking it up very well, but they actually look really good in person. They do look like proper rusty cogs, which I just thought was really good fun. And they were so simple and quick and easy to make. I do usually have quite a few cogs lying about, but I've used them all on projects recently. So, well, I say recently, I haven't been crafting recently, but when I was crafting last. So I thought I'd make a few more just for this one. And then just because I'd got a little tiny bit of time to spare, I made a few tags as well. So I did 3 with silver embellishments and 3 with bronze. They're all pretty much the same. I took a tag. This is just a pre-cut tag that I picked up from the works, and a pack of them. I distressed around the edge with some vintage photo, ripped a little bit of book text up, distressed that with vintage photo as well, and just glued that into the centre. I then went over the top with a text stencil and a little bit of ground espresso, I think it was, but I used the Distress Oxide that time, so it was a little bit not as transparent as you get with the normal Distress inks. And then I just glued over the top of that. I'd got these lovely charms in, they look like pen nibs. I'd got some in the bronze and I'd got some in the silver. And I'd got little keys as well, again in bronze and silver. So I put a pen nib and a key on each one, and I'd got these fab stickers that look like old typewriter key labels. So I popped one of those on, and then just a couple of little gems to finish them off. And that's it. That's what I've made. Something a bit different this month, a bit sort of grungy, a bit, you know, they'd be good for that sort of steampunky type thing, but they'd be good for Father's Day, which is coming up not too far off. Good for mail cards, that sort of thing. And like I say, I'm going to use some of them on scrapbook pages. So that's what I have made this month for Embellishments on the 11th. I hope you've enjoyed having a look. So don't forget to go and check out everybody else. As I say, their links will be in the description box below this video. And please do stick around with me. You know, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I haven't been posting loads just recently. I've been having a little bit of a break. Lots and lots been going on at home. Work's been really busy. I've been feeling a little bit sort of overwhelmed. My fibro's been bad, and unfortunately my nanny passed away a couple of weeks ago as well. So it's all been a little bit much. So I decided to have a little bit of a break, but hopefully I will be back soon with more more crafty content. So until the next time, take care, and I'll see you all again very soon in another crafty video. Bye for now.